Detail of the budget, Michael. I just want to bring in Brid Smith here. Just on the question of the USC, Sinn Féin has made months of campaigning saying that the USC is something that should be retained. We can't hollow out the base. People Before Profit finds itself in the same room as Fine Gael saying it should be axed. Why is that?
Well, we don't find ourselves quite in the same room. In fact, we're outside the room when it comes to how overall both Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael and indeed Sinn Féin look at what's available to us to budget on, because they constrain us within this idea of a fiscal space, whether it's 1.2 or 1.3 billion. We disregard that as total nonsense. There is much more wealth in the country that we can access, much more availability to the economy by way of taxation, and by way of accessing stuff that's due to us, like the effective rate of 12.5% corporation tax. So in the context of getting back much more wealth from those who have it at the very top and taxing the corporations and the Irish financial services sector where all the financial transactions come through, in that context, we believe it's time to reduce the USC and the burden on workers. And that's the context in which we argued it, not in the context of a paltry 1.3 billion of a fiscal space, which is a complete false perception of the economy.
Louise O'Reilly, you call Brid Smith. Where do you stand on this? Is this
I totally support the ASTI's demand for equal pay for equal work, which is what it boils down to.
But it's inside Lansdowne Road. Can you not sort it out inside the negotiation system?
The ASTI voted to stay outside Lansdowne Road, and any trade union have an organisation which represents them and have the right to say where they stand on these deals. They, along with the Gardaí, are outside Lansdowne Road. Now, what appears to be happening is that the government are attempting to isolate the ASTI and to hammer them so that they can have they can keep them in a box. They'll deal with the Gardaí, but they won't deal with the teachers.
What you're saying is you want to disadvantage those people who stayed inside the Lansdowne Host Agreement and took the pain.
No, not at all, because I believe that the Lansdowne Road Agreement has put a real noose around the neck of public sector workers. I know public sector workers also believe this, despite what the leaders of trade unions might say. The recent deal that was done with the INTO and the TUI did not go back to ballot to its members. It was decided to accept it by the leadership, not by the membership. And I don't know if any members of Owen's party were in at the briefings we had from young teachers who are at the receiving end of this pay inequality, as are young nurses, as are young Gardaí.
OK, Michael, Brian Dowling reporting there. Brid Smith, if I can start with you. One reading of that analysis would be that AAA PBP is gone as far as it can go, and basically it's all downhill from here on.
That is one reading of it, indeed. Another reading of the analysis is that just post-budget, the analysis shows that people, if you look at the question of wealth and tax on wealth, that people still feel that it's fair to put a higher tax on wealth. The other thing to say about it is sometimes I wonder the context in which people are asked the questions. So, for example, are there many Irish people out there who know that there is 626 billion worth of wealth in this country overall? The vast majority of that is not taxed. And figures that we got from the CSO and from the Department of Finance show us that gross wealth goes untaxed largely. It's income that is taxed, and it's financial transactions that are taxed, but at a very, very low level. Income obviously is taxed at different levels. But the argument I would put to people is that if you just look at the centre in terms of, popular support in the polls today, where people are up and down, and there's the centre parties are up a bit and the left parties are down a bit, then that is a snapshot in time. But time moves on very quickly, and no sooner was the ink dry on the budget than 80% of teachers voted to go out on strike. Next week, nurses are meeting over the question of their pay, and the question of water charges and repeal the 8th is back on the agenda, and they will lead to big demonstrations and to the mobilisation of people who do support the left. So it's a fluid situation, and what is likely to happen globally is another major economic recession, and should that hit, we will see left and right ground shift again. The point is to have a left voice there for people who do feel that there's gross inequality and that they want to do something to see it adjusted.